Dope. Was a good gang.
What's crabbing, twin?
Most likely it's nighttime. Let me know in the comment section if it's nighttime while you watching this. Make sure y'all subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed.
Are you subscribed?
Appreciate that. Shouts out to the ones that's sharing this video. Let's get into it.
I was 26 at the time, living in a mid-sized city, working a warehouse job I didn't love.
Type shit.
My social circle had slowly dried up the way it does in your
Tight.
mid-20s. People getting serious with girlfriends, taking over time, moving to different parts of town. So when I had a long weekend in July, I drove 3 hours north to a lake I used to fish with my dad, rented a cheap campsite, and figured I'd spend a few days mostly alone. The first night, I wandered into the only bar in the nearest small town. One of those wood-paneled places with mounted bass on the wall and a jukebox nobody ever uses. I sat down at the bar and ordered a beer, and within 20 minutes this guy next to me struck up a conversation. His name was Darren. He was maybe 45, heavyset, wore a canvas shirt with his sleeves rolled up. He had this big easy laugh and talked like someone who knew everyone in a room, even when he didn't. He said he was a retired contractor now doing odd jobs. Had a fishing cabin about 4 miles up the lake road. We ended up talking for 2 hours. Football, fishing, small town politics. Normal stuff. When I got up to leave, he told me to come back tomorrow. He'd be there same time. I did go back. And the night after that. By the third night, Darren had become the highlight of the otherwise quiet trip. He introduced me to a couple of regulars. He bought me rounds. He asked good questions and seemed genuinely interested in the answers. I remember thinking he reminded me a little of my dad, before things between us got complicated. On my last night, he suggested we skip the bar and have a few beers at his fishing cabin instead. More relaxed out there, he said. I've got some decent whiskey, and the porch looks out right at the water. I hesitated for maybe half a second. I mean, older guy, middle of nowhere, cabin in the woods. But I'd spent 3 nights with him. He never said anything that made me feel uncomfortable. I was 26, and I thought I could read people. I followed his truck down a dirt road into the trees.
Oh, shit.
The cabin was small, but well kept. Right on the water, like he said. He poured us both a glass of whiskey on the porch, and we sat there watching the lake go dark. It was genuinely peaceful. An hour passed, maybe more. That's when I noticed I couldn't track the conversation anymore. Darren was talking. I could hear him, but the words weren't connecting to anything. I blinked hard. My hands felt numb in a way that was separate from the cold. I had 3 drinks over the course of 2 hours. I should not have felt like this. I told him I didn't feel right. My voice came out strange, like it was arriving late. He said very calmly, "You're just tired. Go lay down in the back room." Something in me knew not to do that. Some very basic animal part of my brain started screaming, even as the rest of it was going soft. I stood up, or tried to. My legs buckled, and I went down to one knee on the porch. I remember the boards were cold and damp under my hand. Darren stood up slowly. He didn't rush. He didn't look scared or surprised. He looked like a man who was right on schedule. I shoved off the railing hard enough to get upright. I told him I was leaving. My truck was maybe 30 yards away in the dirt clearing where I parked it, and I focused on it like it was the only thing in the world. He stepped in front of me, not grabbing me, not threatening. Just standing there, blocking. He said, "You're not okay to drive. I'm not going to let you do something stupid." I told him to move. He said, "Come on, just come inside." Something had gone out of his voice. The warmth was gone, and underneath it was something flat and practiced. Like a thing he'd done before and knew the steps to. That was the moment I understood completely. Not theorized. Knew. I faked left, cut right, and ran for my truck.
Oh shit,
I don't know how I ran. My legs were like wet concrete. My depth perception was shot.
Yeah, just don't
I heard him
pass
behind
out,
me, not running, just walking fast.
Yeah, cause he knew
still
you,
talking in that
you
low
about to
measured
pass
tone,
out. Oh
telling
my
me
God.
to stop, telling me I was going to hurt myself.
Oh shit.
I got to the truck, got the door open, got the keys in the ignition after 2 tries. I locked the doors. He stood outside the driver's window. In the darkness, I could barely see his face. He put his hand flat on the glass, not hitting it, just resting it there. He said something I couldn't hear through the window and the rushing in my ears.
hope
I
you're
reversed
not
down that
listening.
dirt
There you
road
go.
faster than
There
I
you
should have
go.
been able to. I don't remember most of the drive. I do
Just-
remember pulling into the parking lot of a gas station and sitting there shaking until a woman coming out with a coffee saw me and knocked on my window. I told her what happened. She called 911 and stayed with me until they arrived, which was the kindest thing a stranger's ever done for me. The
Right.
hospital confirmed I'd been drugged. The deputy who took my statement looked unsurprised in a way that scared
Oh,
me more
shit.
than almost anything else that night. He
Oh,
asked me Darren's
shit.
last name and I didn't know. I gave him a description. I told him about the cabin. They would look into it, he said.
Oh my god.
I don't know what happened after that. I never heard back.
That was so
I don't know if
scary.
they found Darren or what his real name
Darren.
was.
Darren,
Or whether
bruh,
he's still out
he
there on
just
that
made
porch
Darren
right
look
now,
bad, bro. I'm not
looking
gonna
out the
lie.
water, waiting for the next
No,
easy
I say a
stranger
shout out to
walk
Darren.
into that
And Darren
bar.
is awesome. Bruh, oh my god.
The
That
lesson
was
I took
scary.
from this story was always read through your lease last
That was
rental agreement
scary.
fully before signing. This took place 4 years ago in Kansas City, Missouri. I'm originally from California, so trading up city life for a less urban life was very challenging for me. Making friends was hard, but I made the move to be with my dad, who lived in an apartment complex with a roommate. My dad was a trucker, so he was gone for weeks at a time. While I was left alone to work and come home to a foreign place that I was slowly becoming accustomed to. My roommate was gone most of the time because he had a girlfriend and he would leave his dog with me, so I never really truly felt alone. I had an old lady for a neighbor that would come up and check on me too. That's how people were in that area, and I found it kind of nice how people knew their neighbors. I got to know everybody in my building's name after about 6 months of living there, except for one. There was a man, I'd say in his early to mid-50s, who lived directly below my apartment. He looked, for lack of a better description, like a creep. He was balding except for on the sides of his head, where that hair was straggly too. He was tall and kind of skinny, and outdated 90s glasses that you'd see on America's Most Wanted, and a very thick mustache. He was the only person in the building who wasn't friendly, or at least didn't make the effort to say hello or introduce himself to me. He also happened to be the maintenance man for all 5 buildings. I didn't think much of this at first. I honestly don't care if you're not overtly friendly to me. I enjoy having space of my own, and sometimes being too friendly is suspicious anyway. That's just a personal problem, but I'm explaining why I didn't send up any red flags at first. One day, when I was pulling out of the driveway to go to work in the morning, I noticed across the large lawn that led to the door to our building that the maintenance man was standing in the center, staring directly at me. Stare is the wrong word, more like a glare. At first, I looked around confused, thinking perhaps he was looking at somebody or something behind me. I was the only one there. Although a bit creeped out, I shrugged it off and continued with my day, forgetting all about it. The next day, I was over at my neighbor Claire's apartment, the older lady, and she happened to bring up a maintenance issue she had, but mentioned she would never ask the maintenance man for anything, and neither should I. I tried to ask her more about what she meant by that, but she ended up being very broad and said something along the lines of, "He's just a known creep around here." Fast
That's all
forward
you
the
need
first
to
incident.
hear.
It was around 2 a.m. and I was still awake, but only barely, sitting on the couch watching Parks and Rec alone in the
That
apartment.
should have been enough.
I was starting to drift off into sleep when I hear a soft noise near the front door. Thankfully, the show was very low in volume because normally I don't pick up on quiet noises most of the time. I turned off the TV and began listening. Next to the living room, on the right side is the patio area, and on the left are the kitchen and the front door. The light from the moon and outside lamps was flooding through the patio glass door, so I could see the doorknob to the front door moving. Not just moving, but somebody was using a key.
Whoa.
In an instant, the door flung open, and I was on my feet, with nowhere to hide at that point. I stood my ground and saw the silhouette step into the kitchen. That's when I saw it was the maintenance man. My stomach dropped, and he stopped dead in his tracks when he spotted me, looking as if it was unexpected to find me awake. I noticed he had a large coat on, even though it wasn't winter or even cold that particular night. I noticed that only because the jacket looked bulky, as if he were carrying things in it that I couldn't see. "What the heck are you doing?" was all I managed to squeak out. I was shaking, my knees feeling like they were going to give out. For reference, I was a 22-year-old woman standing a whopping 5'4", with no way to defend myself at all from where I was standing. He looked shocked, which made me feel like I had gained a little power from the situation. He retorted confusedly and angrily with, "Yeah, your toilet is making a loud noise that I could hear from my bedroom." I was angry and terrified and only reacted with more anger when I saw him scrambling for excuses. "So, you just let yourself into my apartment at 2 in the morning? I'm reporting this to management the first thing in the morning. He stepped closer to me then. I backed up a few steps, but still stood my ground,
Damn,
quickly turning on the light closest to me so he could see my fury. The toilet is rumbling. I'm sorry, I need to check it now. Now I was trembling so hard I could barely stand. I had adrenaline and anger and fear all coursing heavily through my body. Get the F out, I said.
Ooh,
He started to take the liberty to look around the kitchen where he was standing.
weird.
My head immediately thought, shit, what if he goes for a knife? And that's when he said it. I can come in whenever I want. The sentence makes me shiver to this day. I didn't know what to do and felt like the power of this situation quickly dwindling down to a bad feeling that something bad was going to happen. If you don't get out of my apartment right now, I'm going to start screaming as loud as I can. My voice was cracking and shaky, which made my heart drop into my stomach. I immediately felt like I was going to be sick when he took yet another step forward towards me. Check the lease. I can come in whenever I want. I'll see you later. Then he winked at me, creating a wave of nausea, and I felt faint. He slowly turned around and walked out, closing the door behind him and even going far enough as to lock it from the outside with his extra key. The next day, I contacted management as soon as their office space opened. I could tell the conversation wasn't going anywhere when the manager sounded irritated right off the bat. When I told her that the guy entered my apartment illegally, she cut me off and told me that they do not allow any illegal activity and take what I was saying very seriously. I thought, yes, I've got him. Until the manager said, you can't just throw around accusations without proof. This man has dedicated over 20 years to working for this company and we don't plan on getting rid of him anytime soon. Perhaps if you've read over your lease, like you should have. Yes, she was actually scolding me. You would have seen the clause that states that a maintenance worker has the keys to the entire property and if there is a maintenance issue, they are permitted to access the property at any time of the day. This floored me. It couldn't possibly be illegal. Of course, I'm from California and, of course, I didn't read the lease carefully. When I moved there, my dad was already living in the apartment and I literally had nowhere else to go, so if I were to be living there, I was going to have to sign the lease no matter what, so I did. Needless to say, nothing got done. Fast forward again, a few days go by and I don't see Mr. Maintenance Freak until I do. This time I'm pulling in after a long 10-hour shift at work. I haven't forgotten about the scary incident, but I had put it at the back of my mind for the time being to concentrate on other things, although I lost sleep over it. I park my car facing the large lawn area again and start using my phone for a few minutes. I'm peering down at my phone and glance up for a split second before I see him there. He's standing across the lawn staring angrily at me again. I mean furious. I quickly look back down and pretend to have not seen him, getting that sinking feeling again. As a paranoid person, I put the key in the ignition just in case and pretend to keep scrolling on my phone while subtly locking my door. I glance up again and this time he's coming toward me, very fast. I look in my rearview mirror, hoping to see someone else that he may be stomping angrily toward, and of course, no one else is there. It's nearly dark now, but when he gets to about 10 to 15 feet away from the front of my car, I can hear him shouting something, but I can't make out what he's saying. Now I put my phone down and I'm watching him come right at me until he reaches my window and starts banging on it with all of his might and slams his body into the door. He's also fidgeting angrily with the handle,
You
even
got
though the doors
recorded.
are locked.
Recorded.
My car doesn't have automatic locks, so I'm hoping that all my doors are locked at this point. My hands are shaking so bad that I'm having trouble starting the car. When I finally do, I realize what he's saying, which is a repeated cycle of the following phrases. I'm going to get you, ho. I told you I can come in whenever I want, and you really want to take me on? I'll kill you.
Recorded.
I peeled out of there so fast, not even knowing where to go. I drove to the next county over, found a motel, and stayed the night there.
Damn.
The next day, I took work off and went straight to the management's office. I told them exactly what happened, and no matter what I said, they didn't believe me. This maintenance man was apparently the most amazing thing in the world to them or something. He was a monument to the company, and they appreciated his 20 years of service and dedication to them over him risking someone's life with threats. Long story short, I lost it. I called her a psychotic idiot and ended up getting evicted. I reported all of this to the police, but between the lack of evidence I had and his perfect record / shining references from employers that seemed to love him, the police said there was nothing that they could do to move forward at that point.
Crazy.
My dad and I ended up finding a nice home about 10 minutes away from that place. I ended up inviting Claire, my older neighbor, to the house a few months later. She told me that there was a single woman in the apartment before the roommate, and my dad had moved in there, who also left in a hurry after something happened with the maintenance man taking photos of her walking to and from her apartment to her car. When she confronted him about it, he told her, "I can do whatever I want." I guess in Kansas City, maintenance workers can do whatever they want. Needless to say, it's been 4 years and I'm back in California.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
3 years ago, I bought a house on about 4 acres of land outside of town, and I want to be upfront that I love it out here. Quiet and private. Nobody in my business. Exactly what I wanted after 38 years of apartments and neighbors and shared walls. The property has a long gravel driveway that curves up from the road through a stretch of old oak trees before opening up to the house. At night, you can't see the road from the porch and you can't see the house from the road. That kind of privacy felt like a selling point when I bought it. It stopped feeling like one about 6 months in.
Oh,
The porch light is one of those old fixtures that came with the house, cast iron, mounted beside the front door, controlled by a simple interior switch. No timer and no motion sensor, no smart home connection of any kind. You flip it on and it comes up. You flip it off and it goes up. That's the whole system. I don't use it much. I go to bed early and I'm not in the habit of leaving lights on, and I don't get visitors at night, so there's no real need for it. I'd gone weeks at a stretch without touching the switch at all. So the first time I woke up at 2 in the morning and noticed the orange glow coming through my bedroom curtains, I assumed I left it on by mistake and fell back asleep without thinking much about it. I got up in the morning, switched it off, and moved on with my day. A week later, I woke up again. Same time, same glow through the curtains.
What time
I lay
was
there
it?
for a moment, trying to remember if I used the porch that evening. I had it. I got up and switched it off and stood in the kitchen for a minute and then went back to bed. The third time I started paying attention. I'm not a
He
person who
looked
jumps to
tired as shit
conclusions. I
in
spent
that
22
last part.
years as a project manager, and that kind of work beats the instinct for magical thinking right out of you. When something goes wrong, you find the cause, you fix the cause, and you move on. So when the porch light started coming on by itself, my instinct was to find the cause. Faulty wiring seemed most likely. Old house, old fixture, old switch that maybe wasn't fully breaking the circuit when I flipped it down.
Simple.
I checked the switch. It seemed fine. But I'm not an electrician, so I called one out. He went over the fixture and the switch and the wiring to that circuit and found nothing wrong. Charged me $200 to tell me everything was fine.
Damn.
I thanked him and he left, and 3
They be
nights
making
later the
that
light came
money.
on again at 2 in the morning. I replaced
For
the switch
nothing.
myself. Bought a new one from the hardware store, watched a video, swapped it out in 20 minutes. New
Respect.
switch, same result. The light came on at 2 a.m., the switch in the off position, with no explanation. I replaced the entire fixture next. Took the old cast iron one down and put up a new LED model. Different
Okay.
wiring, different housing, different everything. Stood back and felt pretty good about it. 2 nights later, around 2 a.m., the new fixture lit up the driveway
2
like they'd been
a.m..
doing it for years.
2 a.m.
I want to be honest about how long I sat with this house before I did anything about it. The answer is embarrassingly long. A couple of months. I'd wake up, see the glow, lie there for a
Well, they
minute,
shouldn't say
get up and
few
turn it off
years.
and go back to bed. It had become routine enough that I stopped losing sleep over it and started just accepting it and explaining it off as annoying, unexplained, and probably just something I'd figure out eventually. What changed my mind about sitting with it was purely practical. I have a dog named Ruth, a 7-year-old shepherd mix, and Ruth
that's
sleeps at the
good.
foot of my bed every night without exception. She has done this since the week I got her, and in the 7 years, she has never once gotten up in the middle of the night on her own. Not for water, not for anything. She just sleeps. One night in November, I woke up to the light and noticed Ruth wasn't at the foot of the bed. I sat up
Bro, I
and found
never
her
saw
sitting
the
at the
dog
bedroom window with her nose
foot
flicked
of
up
your
in the
bed
curtain,
that was out.
completely still, not growling or whining, just standing there looking out the driveway. I got up and stood beside her and looked out. The driveway was lit by the porch light, per usual. The gravel, the oaks on either side, the darkness beyond where the driveway curved toward the road. All of it sitting in that flat orange light. I stood there for a few minutes and saw nothing and went back to bed. Ruth stayed at the window. In the morning, I went outside and walked the driveway. The gravel near the middle of the curve, where the oaks are the thickest on either side, had been disturbed. Not dramatically or like a struggle, just scuffed and pressed in a pattern that took me a moment to identify. Boot prints. Somebody had been standing in the gravel in the middle of my driveway. Standing there long enough and still enough that the prints were deep and clear, both feet planted
That's
facing
a
the
long
house.
time.
I stood there looking at them in the morning light and thought about the porch light coming on at 2 a.m. for months, and Ruth at the window, and felt something settle over me that I hadn't felt in a very long time. put up a trail camera that afternoon. One of the good ones,
Smart.
motion-activated infrared
So
night
smart.
vision, mounted on an oak about halfway down the driveway, pointed at the curve where the prints had been. I didn't tell anyone about it. I just put it up and waited.
Smart.
4 nights later, I pulled the car. There was footage. At 2:06 a.m., the camera triggered. A man came around the curve from the direction of the road on foot, unhurried, hands at his sides. He walked to almost the exact spot where I'd found the boot prints and stopped. He stood there facing the house with the porch light on above the front door. He was wearing dark work clothes and boots and a cap pulled low, and from the angle in the infrared, I couldn't make out his face clearly. He stood there for 11 minutes without moving. Then he turned and walked back around the curve toward the road and was gone. The timestamp on the footage was the same night the porch light had come on. I called the county sheriff's office the next morning and a deputy came out, and I showed him the footage and the boot prints, which were still visible. He watched the footage twice and asked me how long this had been going on, and I told him about the light and the months I'd spent trying to explain it away, and watched his expression settle into something careful and professional. He took the camera card as evidence and told me to call immediately if anything else happened and to keep my doors locked. He came back 2 later with a detective. They'd identified the man from the footage using a partial on his boot sole that matched a specific work boot brand and some other details I wasn't given in full.
Wow.
He lived 4 miles from my property. He had a history that the detective described carefully as relevant to this type of situation without being more specific than that. I asked what he was doing standing in my driveway for 11 minutes in the middle of the night. The detective said they were working on establishing that. I asked how he was turning the porch light on from my driveway with no remote access to my electrical system. There was a pause, and then the detective asked me to show him the light switch inside. He went in and I showed him, and he crouched down and looked at the switch plate and then asked me for a screwdriver. He took the plate off the wall. Behind it, tucked into the wall cavity alongside the wiring, was a small device I didn't recognize. Wireless, about the size of a thumb drive, attached to the wire with a simple clip.
Wait.
A remote switch receiver, the kind you can buy online for $30 or so. Clip it to any light's wiring, pair it with a handheld transmitter, and you can turn that light on and off from a distance without touching the switch. He'd been standing at the curve of my driveway with the transmitter in his pocket, turning my porch light on like a signal or a test or something else I still haven't fully worked out.
What?
Case went through the system, and I was told he pled to a lesser charge related to trespassing and unlawful entry. I don't know when he was in my house to install the device, and I don't know how many times he'd been on my property before the camera went up.
Crazy.
I don't know what the light meant to him or what he was waiting for standing there in the dark looking at my house. I had the switch and all the wiring on that circuit replaced.
God.
New fixture, new everything. Swept by an electrician who knew what he was looking for this time. The light doesn't come on by itself anymore. Ruth still checks the window sometimes at night though. She just gets up quietly and stands there with her nose at the curtain gap, looking out at the driveway. I always get up and look with her.
This whole thing was good. All 3 stories was fire. 1 and 3 were the best. 2 was okay, but 2 was good. But 1 and 3, bruh, that was fire. Let me know in the comment section which one was the best one, or what was your order of good to okay. Make sure y'all hit that like button, subscribe to the channel.
Are you subscribed?
I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Watch the whole thing with me. I'll catch y'all in the next one.
Hey, I throw myself no bagger, you can just keep your love, I'm cool with it. Try to let them in, they backing up, they say can't handle it. Just give me some time, I made this shit. She said she need my heart, so why she down the shit? Yeah. Outside with the game slide. Yeah, sitting there for the coupe, outside with the game slide. Yeah, sitting there for the. I got a bad bitch on me, yeah, sitting there for the. Yeah, son. Yeah, sitting there for the coupe, outside with the gang, we sliding. Damn, bad bitch on my line, she getting too wet beside it. Damn, pussy function, I got a game beside me. Yeah, said I be making her mad, she getting too red like Takis. I just can't get my mama off me. Said she want more, I think she lost with me. We can go back for man, we doing that.
Keep it cool.
Keep it classy.
We love you.
Stay awesome.
Always.
And forever.